Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of The Jamie Hughes Show. My name as always is Jamie Hughes and today I'm going to be giving you my review of Hereditary. Now if you want to keep up to date with all the latest movie news and reviews, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. And as always in my videos, this review may include spoilers, so you have now been warned. So Hereditary is the crazy, mind-boggling film I expected it to be. It's actually a little bit scarier than I thought it was going to be as well, which was very nice because my expectations for the horror in this film were quite low because it was being billed quite high, and I'll get onto that point a little bit later on in this video. But one of the best things about this film by a country bloody mile is the performance of the wonderful Toni Collette. She is incredible, and I'm gonna put all of my chops and my really low reputation on the line here. I'm going to say that I think Toni Collette is very well in with a chance of being nominated for Best Actress at the Oscars for Hereditary. I thought her performance was incredible. I mean, it wasn't at the points where she needed to be over the top. She had a lot of subtlety in her performance as well, and just little nuances here and there, especially her facial expressions were so good, and I cannot praise Toni Collette enough for her performance in this movie. Now the rest of the cast in Hereditary are really good as well, but I also want to give a special shout out to Millie Shapiro. She played Charlie, the young girl. I think this is her first major film role, and I thought she did an incredible job. Again, it was the nuances in her performance that made her so creepy, unnerving, unsettling, and genuinely quite terrifying for the very short amount of time she was on screen and in this movie. And one of the things I was a little bit gutted about is that we didn't see more of Charlie in this film. I know a certain thing happens to her, but I felt like there was legs in that Charlie character. I was actually a little bit disappointed that she got killed off quite early on in the film, because I thought, again, Millie Shapiro's performance in this movie was really good. I really enjoyed the slow burn that Hereditary gave me. Now, this movie is being billed as the scariest movie in the world, the scariest movie ever, scariest movie since The Exorcist. There's loads of hyperboles floating around there about this film, and it does have a horror element, which I'll get onto in a sec. But for me, what I liked about this story and that slow burn was that it told more of a tale of grief and depression and mental illness for me, and that's what I really connected with this story, was that slow burn and that slow decay of Toni Collette's character, and also her son and her husband to an extent as well. But that was what really hooked me to this film, was seeing, as I say, the decay of this woman as she has to deal with the loss of her mother and then her daughter. I thought that was like the story that jumped out at me more than the out and out horror as this film is being billed at. Now let's talk about the horror, because when the horror was implemented into this movie, it was incredible, and it was terrifying in points. As I said, I do have issue with people calling this a out and out horror movie, because it's really not. There's so many layers to this film, and I think just pigeonholing it as a horror is a mistake. But the camera techniques and the visual techniques that are used in this story to build horror are so well executed, and I think it's Ari Aster, the director. I have to just point out the camera work in this film, because it is so good. There is one scene in particular, more of a sequence. It's when Peter wakes up from his like nightmare, and he lifts up and the camera kind of lifts up with him, and you just, this little glimpse in the corner, and Toni Collette's character is like pinned up against the wall, and it was just so terrifying and building that suspense, because you didn't know what was happening. And then as you followed him, the camera followed him around the house. I think there's a really great shot just after that where it moves down the kind of dollhouse that they have, and it follows him around, and it was just so incredibly shot. Like, the style of this movie was just fantastic. I love the way that they implemented tilt shifts to make the house look really small and contained. Just can't say enough about the actual technical elements that went into this movie. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But just to add to that, also the soundtrack is incredible in this movie as well. It doesn't use a lot of sound in points, but the score that accompanies the kind of scary stuff that happens in this film worked very, very well. Now, I might slip into heavy spoiler territory here as well, but I think the way that the story played out in Hereditary was really well constructed and well structured as well, because it always kept me guessing. I never knew where this story was going to take me and really what was going to happen, and I thought what we got wasn't what I was expecting. The climax of this movie with Peter becoming the kind of demon of mischief or whatever he became wasn't what I was expecting. It wasn't what I was predicting, but it still captivated me and hooked me, and I really wanted to see more. I'm so intrigued to see where this story was going, and I think that is what I enjoyed so much about this film, is that yes, it's a slow burner, but it kept me so engaged and so entertained. Entertained is probably the wrong word, but you get what I mean. I was just so hooked and immersed in this movie. I just was hanging on every word that the characters were saying, and I was so hooked into it. And as you can see, I really enjoyed Hereditary, but the only issue I have with this film is not even really to do with the film, it's more to do with the film's marketing. Now, this movie is produced by A24, and I've seen a lot of other A24 movies, especially some A24 horror movies. The Witch, I really enjoyed. It Comes at Night, not so much. And that's where my issue comes with Hereditary, is that this film is being marketed as the scariest film ever, the scariest film in the world. It's, oh my God, it's the scariest film since The Exorcist. All of this, like, crap, basically, because it's not, and I don't think they should be billing it as a terrifying horror film. And I know film is subjective, this is just my opinion on this, but this is where they start making mistakes, I think, because they did this with The Witch. I wasn't really aware of The Witch until a few years after it came out. I saw it, thought it was very good. Again, not overly terrifying, but I still really enjoyed the movie. But my issue started with It Comes at Night, because It Comes at Night was also having the same treatment as being the most scary film in the world, terrifying, all this stuff again, all these hyperboles. And I went to see it, and I was just ended up being bored by it, because it was more of a psychological thriller, and for me, I wasn't scared. And I think that's where my issue lies, is that you shouldn't be going into this movie believing the critics. And I know that's kind of a little bit hypocritical of me to be saying that, but I tried to shy away from that. I tried to shy away from everybody saying, oh, it's the scariest movie in the world. I went in there with quite low expectations to be scared because of my previous experience with A24 films. And because of that, I actually ended up enjoying Hereditary a lot more than I thought I was gonna, and I was actually a lot scared. I was more scared. I can't even speak. I was more scared of Hereditary than I thought I was gonna be, and I think that, although yeah, that can be construed as a negative, because what I'm saying is that it's, you know, the way it's been marketed is a problem, but I actually think that was a positive for me, because I went in with low expectations. So I think what I'm trying to say is, don't buy into the hype of Hereditary. Go and see it for yourself and enjoy it and form your own opinion of it. Don't let people tell you it's the scariest film in the world, if that makes any sort of sense. Because, you know, my opinion could be wrong to somebody else, because I'm telling you to go in there with low expectations. And that's kind of my review of Hereditary. I don't want to end it on a flat note, but that's just how I felt, is that I felt that you will enjoy this movie more if you go into it almost blind and disconnect yourself from other reviews and don't buy into the hype, is what I would say. That's not to say that Hereditary is not a good film. I am in no way, shape or form saying that Hereditary is a bad film. I thought it was a wonderfully crafted piece of art, and it really was like art at points watching this movie. I wouldn't say it's a masterpiece, but it's not a horror masterpiece. It's a very good horror film, but it's not a horror film. Oh man, I'm going around in circles here, but you kind of get what I'm getting at. You kind of get my point. So that is my review of Hereditary. If you guys have seen it, let me know what you thought about it, as always, down in those comments below. And if you did enjoy this video and you want to keep up to date with all the latest movie news and reviews, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I will see you in the very next episode of the Jamie Hughes News. Ta-ra!